I slammed the rusty trunk onto my father's marble kitchen floor, the sound echoing through the empty mansion like a gunshot. My sisters, Allison and Brooke, were still laughing in the driveway, their diamond bracelets glinting under the California sun as they flaunted their new Ferraris. $30 million each, just wired into their accounts. And me? A locked, battered trunk. My chest burned as I gripped the cold brass latch. My father's voice from 2 days ago replayed in my mind. "Everything you deserve is in there, Lily. Don't open it unless you're ready." The metal creaked as I forced it open. Inside, on top of a pile of dusty papers, lay a single photograph, me at age 8, clutching my mother's hand, her face half-burned from the fire everyone said was an accident. Beneath it, a stack of documents with my sisters' names and a phrase in my father's handwriting. "The truth is worth more than money." But the last item froze my blood. A small velvet pouch. Inside it, a jagged, blood-stained ring. I dropped it. The sound was tiny, but it might as well have been a bomb. Because I knew that ring. It was my father's wedding band, the one he claimed was lost the night my mother died. The room seemed to tilt. And that's when the front door creaked open. "Lily," Allison's voice called out, almost too sweet. "What are you doing with that trunk?" I shoved the pouch back inside and snapped the trunk closed just as her stilettos clicked across the marble. My heartbeat roared in my ears. I didn't know it yet, but that moment was the start of a war that would destroy everything we thought we knew about our family. I'm Lily Bennett, 24, the invisible daughter of a man who built an empire on secrets. My sisters, Allison and Brooke, were the golden girls, perfect smiles, Ivy League degrees, and now multi-million-dollar fortunes. Our father, Richard Bennett, owned half the tech industry and the other half of our small California town. Growing up, I thought we were happy, or at least pretending well enough. But the night of my mother's death burned a hole through the facade. The fire took her, or so they said, and Dad buried her closed casket before anyone could ask questions. My sisters cried for a week, then moved on. Dad drowned himself in work. And me? I kept the memory of that night like a splinter under my skin. The fire had started in Dad's study, the room my mother wasn't supposed to be in. Years later, when the lawyers read Dad's will in his echoing study, the betrayal hit harder than the flames ever had. Allison Bennett, $30 million. Brooke Bennett, $30 million. The room applauded like some kind of ceremony. Then the lawyer glanced at me, almost pitying. And for Lily Bennett, Richard leaves a personal item, a trunk. The room went silent. Allison smirked. Brooke pretended to look sad. My father's portrait on the wall seemed to sneer. I'd smiled weakly, but inside, humiliation clawed at my chest. Everyone whispered. The invisible daughter, forgotten again. I drove the trunk home that night, the latch biting into my palms. I didn't open it, not until the anger boiled past breaking. But now, staring at that blood-stained ring, I felt the ground under my life crack open. Allison leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You look pale. Don't tell me you're crying over Dad again." I forced a laugh. Just reminiscing. Brooke appeared in the doorway, scrolling through her phone. "Seriously, Lil. Don't make this weird. Dad knew what he was doing. Maybe he thought money would just, I don't know, ruin you." I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled, small and sharp. "Yeah, maybe." They left, their perfume lingering like poison. As their cars roared down the driveway, I reopened the trunk and sifted through the papers. They were insurance records, bank statements, evidence, pieces of a puzzle my father had left me. And at the bottom, tucked beneath a faded letter, was a key. The tag attached read, "For the cabin. You'll understand." The cabin, our childhood getaway in the mountains. A place Dad hadn't visited in 15 years. I clutched the key. My father had set me up, not for failure, but for a mission. But before I could plan, headlights flooded the kitchen through the window. A car door slammed. Someone was back. I snatched the trunk closed again and held my breath as footsteps crunched on gravel. The door creaked open. "Lily," a man's voice said, a voice I hadn't heard in years. My heart nearly stopped. Because it wasn't one of my sisters. It was my mother's brother, Uncle Jack, who'd vanished the night of the fire. And he was holding something in his hand. Something that glinted like a gun. Uncle Jack. My voice cracked like a dry twig. The kitchen light caught the metal in his hand, a revolver. My breath froze. He stepped inside, boots leaving muddy prints on the marble. His face was older, gaunter than I remembered, but his eyes, they were wild, haunted. "Close the trunk, Lily," he said, though the trunk was already shut. His voice carried the tremble of someone who hadn't spoken in years. My throat tightened. "Where have you been? Everyone thought you were dead." He ignored the question, his gaze fixed on the trunk like it contained a ticking bomb. "Did you open it?" I hesitated. That was all the answer he needed. His jaw clenched, and he stepped closer. "You saw the ring." It wasn't a question. My stomach nodded. "What happened that night, Jack? Did he?" He lowered the gun slightly, pain flickering in his eyes. "Your father didn't tell you the whole truth. But if your sisters find out what's in that trunk before you understand it, you're in danger. They're not as innocent as you think." A car door slammed outside again. My heart jumped. Allison's high-pitched laughter floated in through the window. She'd returned. Jack cursed under his breath and shoved a small flash drive into my palm. "Everything you need that's on here. Don't trust anyone." "Jack, wait." But he bolted out the back door, vanishing into the night like a ghost just as Allison stepped into the kitchen. Her eyes darted to the muddy footprints, then to me. "Who was here?" I forced a shrug. "Delivery guy. Wrong address." Her lips curled, suspicious. "With muddy boots? And why are you shaking?" I gripped the counter to steady myself. "Because you keep showing up uninvited." Her fake smile widened. "Oh, Lily. Still bitter, huh? Just don't do anything stupid. Dad trusted us for a reason." She brushed past me, her perfume suffocating, then left without another word. I collapsed against the counter, shaking. The flash drive burned in my palm. The next day, I drove to a dingy motel off Highway 9, far from the Bennett estate. My hands trembled as I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. A single folder opened. Fire Truth. Inside were videos, grainy footage from security cameras. My father's study, the night of the fire. In one clip, my mother stood in the room, clutching a file folder, her burned cheek not yet marred by flames. My father entered, furious. The audio was faint, but enough. "You can't expose me, Claire," he shouted. "You stole from your own company, Richard," she spat back. "Your partners will destroy you if they find out. I'll destroy you first." Then, Jack burst into the room, trying to break up the fight. A scuffle. A candle knocked over. Flames licking the curtains. My father's wedding ring slipping off in the chaos. The video cut out. I slammed the laptop shut, my pulse thundering. My father hadn't been the hero everyone believed. But Jack, had he saved her? Or killed her? The motel door rattled suddenly. Someone was trying to open it. I lunged for the trunk. Yes, I'd brought it with me. Snapping it closed again just as the door creaked open. Brooke stood there, her perfect hair gleaming even under the dim motel light. "Lily," she said sweetly, "why are you hiding out here?" Her eyes slid to the trunk. "You shouldn't have opened it," she whispered. "Dad's gone, but his enemies aren't." Her words sliced through the air. "What are you talking about?" I demanded. She stepped inside, shutting the door behind her. Her smile faltered. "You think Allison and I don't know? We've been protecting you for years. But now it might be too late." I backed away, my fingers brushing the trunk. Protecting me? Or covering for Dad? Brooke's jaw tightened. "You don't understand. This isn't just about Dad. It's about what he stole and who he stole it from." Before I could respond, the motel window shattered. A brick crashed onto the floor, paper taped to it fluttering free. The note, written in thick black marker, read, "Return what isn't yours or you all burn." Glass crunched under Brooke's heels as she picked it up, her face pale. "This isn't over, Lily," she whispered. I glanced between the trunk, the flash drive, and my sister, realizing I couldn't trust anyone. Not Brooke. Not Allison. Maybe not even Jack. But I also knew one thing. Whoever sent that note had just declared war. The motel felt smaller after the brick shattered the window, the air thick with fear and dust. Brooke's hand trembled as she set the note on the dresser. Outside, a car engine revved, then sped away into the night. Who knows about this place? I whispered. No one, Brooke said too quickly. Her eyes darted, not at me, but at the trunk. And in that glance, I saw it, the flicker of greed. I stepped between her and the trunk. You didn't follow me here, did you? She hesitated. Then she smirked, all sweetness gone. Allison put a tracker on your car. She thinks you're too naive to handle what's coming. She's not wrong. Rage flared in my chest. You spied on me? After everything? You think Dad left you a trunk because he loved you? Brooke's tone was ice. No. He left you the mess he didn't want us to clean up. She turned to leave. But before she reached the door, headlights swept across the motel room again. Another car pulling in. I yanked Brooke back. Wait. A tall, broad-shouldered man stepped out of a black SUV. His silhouette was sharp against the flickering motel sign. He walked to my broken window and crouched to peer inside. Jack. But this time, he wasn't alone. A woman stepped out of the passenger side. Short hair, leather jacket, a gun holster glinting at her side. Brooke gasped. Who is she? Jack's voice was muffled through the glass. Lily, open the door. Now. Against my better judgment, I did. Jack entered first, his jaw tight, eyes scanning the room. The woman followed, her gaze cool and assessing. This is Detective Ramirez, Jack said. She's been investigating your father for years. Ramirez stepped closer. Your dad's business partners weren't just tech moguls. They laundered cartel money. And that ring you found. She pointed at the trunk. Proof he double-crossed them. Brooke's face strained of color. You're saying the cartel's coming for us? Not coming, Ramirez corrected grimly. They're already here. A loud crash outside cut her off, the sound of tires screeching and glass shattering. We all ducked. Get down, Jack barked. Bullets tore through the motel sign, sparks flying. A shadowy figure sprinted past the window. Who are they aiming for? Brooke whispered, clutching my arm. All of us, Jack growled. Ramirez drew her gun. We need to move. Now. I grabbed the trunk handle. But Jack's hand closed over mine. Leave it. It's a target. No, I said, surprising even myself. Dad left this for me. If they want it, they can chase me for it. Jack's eyes flickered, part admiration, part fear. We bolted out the back, slipping into the SUV under gunfire. As Jack sped out of the lot, Ramirez fired 2 shots out the window, shattering the attacker's headlights. The SUV roared down the highway. The trunk rattled against my knees. Brooke stared out the window, silent for once. Finally, Jack spoke. Lily, your father didn't just steal money. He stole something bigger. And if we don't figure out what, we're all dead. The weight of his words pressed on me. My father's empire, my sister's fortunes, my mother's death, it was all tangled in a web I'd barely begun to unravel. Brooke broke the silence. There's more in that trunk, isn't there? I hesitated. Documents. Keys. Clues. Enough to destroy Dad's legacy. Or save it, Brooke murmured, almost to herself. The SUV slowed as Jack turned onto a dark mountain road, the one leading to the old family cabin. The trees closed in around us, their shadows like reaching hands. Halfway up the mountain, the headlights caught something on the road. A deer, frozen. Jack swerved hard, the SUV skidding. The trunk slid forward, the latch popping. The lid cracked open just enough for a corner of an old photograph to slip out. It fluttered into Brooke's lap. She picked it up, her brow furrowing. This is Allison. And her breath caught. That's not Dad. Jack glanced over. Let me see. She held up the photo. Allison, maybe 18, stood beside a man I didn't recognize. The date scrawled on the back. The night of the fire. Who is he? I whispered. Jack's face went pale. That's Miguel Vargas, one of the cartel lieutenants. Brooke's voice was a rasp. Allison was working with him? Before I could answer, headlights flared in the rearview mirror. A black SUV, different from ours, was gaining fast. Ramirez cursed. They found us. Jack floored the gas, the engine screaming. Trees blurred past as the other SUV closed the gap. Brooke gripped my arm. If Allison's tied to them, what if she set us up? My blood ran cold. The pursuing SUV rammed our bumper. The impact jolted us forward. The trunk tipped, spilling its contents across the floor. Papers, keys, the bloodstained ring. And something else, a small, sealed envelope addressed to me. I snatched it up, heart hammering. Inside was a single piece of paper with my father's handwriting. Lily, trust no one. Not even your sisters. The SUV slammed us again. Jack swore. Ramirez leaned out the window, firing into the darkness. And in that chaos, a single thought cut through the fear. My father hadn't just left me clues. He'd left me a choice. Did I expose my family secrets and risk all our lives, or play the game my father had started? Another crash jolted the SUV. The road ahead curved sharply, a cliffside drop to the valley below. Jack shouted, "Hold on." The SUV swerved, tires screeching. The world tilted. The trunk, my father's secrets, my future, everything slid toward the open door. And then the SUV tipped. The world tilted sideways as the SUV screeched, half its weight hanging over the edge of the cliff. Gravel skittered into the darkness below. Brooke screamed, clawing at the seatbelt. Ramirez braced herself against the dashboard, gun still clutched in her hand. Jack slammed on the brakes, but the back wheels dangled into nothingness. The trunk slid toward the open door, its contents spilling, papers, the blood-stained ring, the envelope. My heart lurched as a single sheet, the photograph of Allison and Miguel, caught the wind and fluttered out into the abyss. No! I lunged, grabbing the trunk handle just as the SUV groaned, its frame creaking under the strain. "Lily, let it go!" Jack shouted. "I can't." My knuckles whitened as I hauled the trunk back inside. The pursuing SUV screeched to a stop a few yards behind us. Its headlights cut through the mist, blinding. Two figures stepped out, dark silhouettes against the cliffside night. One raised a rifle. Ramirez cursed under her breath. "We're sitting ducks." Jack's voice was gravel. "Everybody out, slow and quiet. We can't stay in the car." The four of us slipped out the passenger side, boots crunching on gravel. I kept the trunk pressed to my chest like a lifeline. The men advanced, their weapons glinting. "Hand over the trunk," one of them called in a deep, accented voice. "You don't know what you're holding." Brooke's voice shook. "Please, just." The man fired a warning shot into the air.
"Now."
Ramirez fired back. Chaos erupted. Gunshots echoed through the mountains, the smell of gunpowder stinging my nose. Jack shoved me toward the tree line. "Go, Lily," he barked. "Get to the cabin." I ran, clutching the trunk, Brooke stumbling beside me. Bullets whined past us. A tree splintered as one hit its trunk inches from my face. We crashed through the underbrush until the sounds of pursuit faded. The forest swallowed us, dark, silent except for our ragged breathing. Brooke collapsed against a fallen log, sobbing. "We're going to die out here." I crouched beside her, forcing my own fear down. "Not if we find out why they want this trunk." She looked up at me, mascara streaking her cheeks. "Do you even care about Dad anymore? After everything?" I hesitated. "I care about the truth. And if she's tied to them." Brooke flinched. She wouldn't, but her voice cracked. A twig snapped behind us.
We spun.
Jack stepped out of the shadows, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Ramirez followed, scanning the trees with her gun raised. "They're regrouping," Ramirez said. "We need to move before they circle back." Jack pointed up the slope. "The cabin's a mile east. We stay off the road." We hiked in silence, the forest pressing in like a living thing. Finally, the trees broke to reveal the silhouette of the Bennett family cabin, its windows dark, its roof sagging with age. Inside, dust coated every surface. Old photographs lined the mantel. Family vacations, birthday parties, my parents smiling like strangers pretending at happiness. Jack barricaded the door with a chair. Ramirez cleared the rooms. Brooke sat at the dusty dining table, staring blankly at nothing. I set the trunk down and opened it again. Beneath the scattered papers was something I hadn't noticed before, a small metal box wedged into the lining. Inside were 3 items: a ledger, a memory card, and a folded note. The note read, "Lily, if you're reading this, you're the only one I could trust. The ledger is proof of every deal I made. The memory card holds the faces of the men I betrayed. Use them wisely or not at all." Brooke's voice was a whisper. "What does that mean?" Jack took the ledger, flipping through it. His face darkened. This isn't just cartel money. He was skimming from politicians, CEOs, anyone dirty enough to invest in him. Ramirez examined the memory card. This could topple half the West Coast's power brokers. If the cartel gets it first, they'll use it to control everything. A sudden thud on the roof made us all freeze. Jack grabbed his gun. Ramirez killed the light. Another sound, a faint scrape along the cabin wall. Then a voice, muffled but clear, floated through the broken window. "Lily." It was Allison. Brooke gasped. Jack's eyes narrowed. "Don't trust her." I edged toward the window, my heart hammering. Allison's face appeared in the moonlight, tear-streaked, desperate. "Lily, please," she whispered. "They're going to kill me if I don't bring them the trunk." I didn't have a choice. "Did you give them the motel address?" I asked, my voice shaking. She flinched. "I thought they'd just scare you. I didn't know they'd try to kill you." Ramirez's hand hovered over her gun. "She's lying." Allison's eyes locked on mine. "Dad wasn't who you think he was. But neither is Uncle Jack. Ask him about the night of the fire." Jack stiffened, his jaw tightening. I felt the world tilt again. The sister who betrayed me was begging for my trust. And the uncle who saved me might be hiding a darker truth. The sound of approaching engines rumbled through the trees. More SUVs. Allison's voice broke. "Choose, Lily. Hand me the trunk, or we all die tonight." The engines outside grew louder, gravel crunching under heavy tires. Headlights flashed between the trees, beams sweeping over the cabin's weathered logs. Brooke clutched my arms so tightly her nails dug into my skin. Allison's face was pale in the moonlight. "Please, Lily," she whispered through the window. "If you don't give me that trunk, they'll kill all of us." Ramirez leveled her gun at the window. "Step away, Allison." Allison raised her trembling hands. "I didn't mean for this to happen. Jack, tell her. Tell her you weren't supposed to be there that night." Jack's jaw tightened. "She's stalling." But something in his voice, an edge of guilt, made my stomach knot. "Jack," I said, my voice shaking. "What does she mean?" He avoided my eyes. "Now isn't the time." "That's exactly what makes it the time," I snapped. The engines cut off outside. Silence pressed in. Then footsteps. Many of them. Jack cursed under his breath and motioned for us to move to the back room. Ramirez peered through the crack in the door, whispering, "For maybe 5 men. Armed." I grabbed the trunk and the memory card, slipping the card into my jacket pocket. If they got the trunk, they wouldn't get everything. Suddenly, a voice boomed outside. "Bennett family. Come out. Bring the trunk, and maybe we let you live." Brooke whimpered. Allison's eyes darted toward the sound. "They'll kill us anyway," Ramirez hissed. The cabin door rattled as the men tried to force it open. Jack shoved a heavy table against it, but the hinges groaned. Then, through the broken window, a gloved hand reached in and yanked Allison outside. She screamed as she disappeared into the darkness. "Allison." Brooke bolted toward the window, but Jack pulled her back. Gunfire erupted, shattering glass, splintering wood. The men outside shouted in Spanish, their voices sharp and confident. "We need a distraction," Ramirez said. Her eyes flicked to Jack. "Get to the Jeep out back. Lily, Brooke, you two head for the creek trail. I'll cover you." I didn't want to leave her, but Jack shoved us toward the back door. Move! We burst into the cold night air, branches whipping our faces as we tore through the forest. Behind us, gunfire and shouting echoed. The trunk felt impossibly heavy in my arms, but I didn't let go. We stumbled onto a narrow trail that curved down the mountain. The creek shimmered faintly in the moonlight below. Brooke's breath came in ragged sobs. "What if they kill Allison?" she gasped. I didn't answer. Part of me was furious enough not to care, but another part remembered the photograph, the secrets, the fire. If Allison was tied to Miguel Vargas, she wasn't innocent, but she was still my sister. Ahead, lights flickered, flashlights sweeping through the trees. We ducked behind a fallen log, holding our breath as two men passed within feet of us, their Spanish curses drifting on the wind. Once they were gone, we scrambled down to the creek. The rushing water drowned out our footsteps as we waded through the shallows, the icy current biting at my legs. "Lily," Brooke whispered, maybe we should just give them the trunk." "No," I said firmly. "Dad left this for a reason. If we hand it over, we're dead anyway." She bit her lip, tears streaking her cheeks. Suddenly, movement ahead, a flashlight beam. A man stepped out onto the creek bank, his rifle raised. "Alto," he barked. Brooke froze. My pulse thundered. And then, another voice rang out from behind him. "Drop it. Ramirez." A gunshot cracked the night. The man crumpled. Ramirez stepped into the light, breathing hard.
"Come on."
"Jack's holding them off, but we don't have much time." We followed her through the forest until the trees thinned and the cabin lights disappeared behind us. Ahead, an abandoned ranger station loomed, its windows boarded up. Ramirez led us inside and barricaded the door. She turned to me. "That memory card, do you still have it?" I nodded, pulling it from my jacket. She took it, sliding it into her phone with a small adapter. A video loaded. It showed my father, alive. The date stamp was just 2 weeks ago. He sat at a table with Miguel Vargas. "I'll fake my death," Dad said in a low, urgent voice. "The girls will tear each other apart over the inheritance. By the time they realize the trunk's a setup, I'll be gone with everything." The video ended. My knees buckled. He's alive. Ramirez looked grim. And he planned all of this. Brooke's face twisted with betrayal. He used us, all of us. I felt a hot, hollow anger bloom in my chest. My father hadn't just abandoned me. He'd orchestrated this nightmare. Outside, a distant explosion lit up the trees, the cabin. Jack's voice came faintly through Ramirez's radio. "They're down, but I'm hit. Meet me at the old quarry." Then static. Ramirez cursed. "He's bleeding out." I looked at the trunk, at Brooke's tear-streaked face, and at the memory card now burning a hole in my palm. If Dad was alive, this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about survival. And if I wanted to beat him at his own game, I'd have to become every bit as ruthless as he was. The sky was bruised purple as dawn crept over the mountains. The old quarry stretched before us, silent, abandoned, a graveyard of rusted machinery and broken dreams. Brooke clutched my arm, her steps unsteady as we approached the meeting point. Ramirez scanned the horizon, her gun drawn, her face set like stone. Jack leaned against a boulder, his shirt soaked with blood. He looked older than ever, but his eyes still burned with the same fierce loyalty. "You made it," he rasped. Is Allison?" "Taken," I said, my voice hard. "And Dad is alive." His jaw tightened, but he didn't look surprised. A low rumble echoed through the quarry. Engines. 2 black SUVs emerged from the treeline, their tires grinding over the gravel. The first door opened, and my father stepped out. Richard Bennett looked almost unchanged, impeccably dressed, his silver hair catching the morning light. But his eyes, those eyes I'd once begged for approval, were cold steel. "Lily," he said smoothly, as if we were meeting for brunch. "I knew you'd be clever enough to find me." My throat tightened. "You faked your death. You let us think you were gone. You turned us against each other, for money. For survival," he corrected. "You don't know the men I crossed. I needed to disappear. And use us as pawns?" Brooke's voice cracked with disbelief. Your own daughters? He spread his hands. You'll thank me when this is over. Give me the trunk and the memory card. You and Brooke walk away with your lives and 30 million each. Where's Allison? I demanded. The second SUV door opened. Two cartel gunmen shoved Allison forward. Her hair was a tangled mess, her face streaked with tears. Lily, I'm sorry, she sobbed. I didn't know Dad was alive. Dad's voice was calm, almost bored. She was sloppy, but she can still be forgiven, if you hand me what's mine. Ramirez's gun stayed trained on him. You're not walking away from this, Bennett. He smirked. You can't arrest me. You've got no backup and no proof without that card. I looked at the trunk, the card, my sisters. Every memory, every humiliation, rushed back. The night of the fire. The way they laughed at me during the will reading. The way Dad always made me feel like an afterthought. I stepped forward, holding the trunk. My voice trembled, not with fear, but with something colder. You always underestimated me, Dad. His smile widened. Then prove me wrong. Hand it over. I set the trunk on the gravel between us and slid the memory card on top. His eyes gleamed with victory. As he bent to pick them up, I whispered to Ramirez. Now. Ramirez clicked a hidden transmitter on her belt. Suddenly, spotlights blazed from the cliffs above. Dozens of red lasers danced across my father's chest and the cartel gunmen's heads. Helicopter blades thundered overhead. FBI agents in tactical gear flooded the quarry, shouting commands. My father froze, the trunk halfway in his hands. You think you're smart, Lily, he hissed. But you've just signed all our death warrants. I shook my head, my voice steady. I signed yours. The cartel men panicked, opening fire. Gunshots erupted, echoing off the quarry walls. FBI agents returned fire, pinning them down. Brooke pulled Allison behind a bulldozer for cover. Jack collapsed behind a rock, clutching his wound. In the chaos, my father lunged for the memory card. I tackled him. Gravel tore my palms as we rolled across the ground. You ruined everything, he snarled. No, Dad. My voice was ice. You did. I shoved him hard, sending him stumbling backward, straight into the shallow edge of the quarry pit. He teetered for a moment, then slipped. His body disappeared into the dust and darkness below. Silence fell, broken only by distant gunfire and the whirring helicopter blades. Ramirez approached, breathing hard. It's over. The cartel's done. And your father, well, he won't be climbing out of there. I stared at the edge where he'd fallen. I didn't feel joy, just a hollow ache. Revenge was never sweet. It was bitter and heavy, like the ashes of something once loved. Allison stumbled toward me, tears streaking her face. Lily. I stepped back. Don't. You chose your side. Brooke wrapped her arms around me, shaking. For the first time in years, her embrace felt genuine. As the FBI gathered evidence, Ramirez placed a hand on my shoulder. You just exposed one of the biggest criminal empires on the West Coast. You saved more lives than you know. I glanced at the battered trunk lying in the gravel. Empty now, its power gone. It wasn't worth $30 million. It was worth the truth. We walked out of the quarry as the sun rose, painting the sky gold and crimson. The world felt quieter, though I knew the scars of this night would never fade. But one thing was certain. My father's game was over. And for the first time, I wasn't invisible anymore.